Common mistakes that active adults and athletes make that lead to injury happen all the time, and we're going to talk about some of the most common ones. So the first one we're going to touch on is increase in volume too fast, or in other terms, overuse injury. So what is volume? Volume is a combination of your reps times your sets times the weight. This, all in all, for all the movements that you do for a specific muscle group, encapsulates the total volume. If you increase that amount of work or volume too fast, then it correlates with increases in injury incidences. So, for example, let's say you're doing a workout and you haven't worked out at all in several months, or you haven't deadlifted. And then you go into the gym and a bunch of deadlifts are programmed at a weight that's moderately uncomfortable for you, pretty hard. And then you do that workout and you wonder why your back flared up. Well, it's because your body's not used to deadlifting. It hasn't done it in months. And you're jumping into a workout that involves a high volume or high rep load of deadlifts, and your body's in shock. And then it responds to that sometimes by sending off pain signals. The next most common mistake that active adults and athletes make in their training that leads to injury is they fail to include unilateral movements. Okay? Some unilateral movements would be considered like a split squat, single leg RDL, landmine press, dumbbell bench press. The reason these are important is they help work on your weaknesses. So if one side of your body is a little bit weaker than the other, you can balance that out. Unilateral movements usually activate the muscles to a higher extent as well. So you're going to get more bang for your buck doing them. So everybody who's training with any type of workout, doesn't matter if you're doing CrossFit, traditional weight training, bodybuilding, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You need to be incorporating unilateral movements if you want to prevent injury and improve your performance. The next most common mistake that active adults and athletes make in their training that leads to injury is they progress too fast. And this can be done in several different ways. We'll use two of the most common. So they'll progress in weight too fast. So instead of starting with a lighter weight and then working their way up into a heavier weight over time, they might get a little bit of a ego boost, and they'll look around and they'll say, oh, well, so-and-so's doing that weight. I think I can do that too. And then they jump in and they just skip steps. You should not skip steps in your training. There's a reason it's progressive overload, because if you skip the progressive part, you get hurt. The other thing that most athletes will do, or the other mistake that most athletes will make, is they will progress in a movement pattern too fast. So for example, they will try to do a kipping pull-up or a butterfly pull-up before they're able to actually do just a general strict pull-up. They haven't built the foundational strength, so they're trying to skip steps in a skill or technique, and that causes them to get injured. So the next mistake most athletes make in their training that leads to injury is they're not well-rounded. So let's say somebody really enjoys basketball. So they decide, I'm going to go out and I'm going to play basketball 3 to 4 times a week. But they don't do any strength training in the gym. So they're not building strength, but they're fatiguing their muscles on a consistent basis. So yes, it's very sports specific. Will you get a little bit better at basketball by doing that? Absolutely. But are you doing what's best for your body? No. You're likely overtraining and increasing the volume of basketball that you're playing without actually increasing your body's ability to be resilient to injury by strength training and building power specific to that sport. Lastly, the final mistake, and this is probably the worst one of all, is you see people do dumb stuff in training. What do I mean by dumb? I mean things that you see on Instagram that's supposed to be in a funny video, like the crate challenge, for example. And you think it's a good idea, and you think you can do the crate challenge, and then you fall off a stack of 15 to 20 crates, and then you get hurt. Some people do dumb stuff with bands, where they'll have bands tied all around them, and they think they're doing something good for their body, but really what they're doing is they're making something overly complex, and in doing so, they're risking injury. Instead of just doing the tried and true basics. We don't need new exercises. We need to use the exercises that we already know in a smarter way to get the results we're looking for. Training isn't about new and fancy. It's about using tried and true methods and using them to develop and meet your goals. If you're doing that, you're going to have success.